Hello everybody, welcome back to Read and Reread. I am Angelia and today I'm trying really hard to do a haul video. I've started this video about 10 times. I don't know what the problem is. A haul video is the easiest of all videos because a haul video is, I got a bunch of books. I haven't read them yet. I hope they're good. The end. But somehow I've made it complicated and I've had 1,000 goof ups and start overs. But let's see what happens this time. If you hear any of this, this is the one that's stuck. These books are mostly holiday gifts and then a few more, and all of them have pretty solid reasons for why they have arrived here in my home, except maybe one. I don't know why I have to give this disclaimer, like you're going to demand accountability for this pile, because I know you don't care. So let's just talk about the books, why don't we? All right, so the first 4 books were a beautiful Christmas gift from my friend Michael Clark, and he sent them and they were beautifully wrapped. If I still have a picture of how they looked when they got here, they were so tantalizing in their little Christmas papers. And he dropped a hint by just from the size and the feel. I was in my mind, I was guessing plays. Where else do you guess things but in your mind? Okay. But he did drop a hint that one of them was essays, and I was like, wonder what it is. Well, it is a wonderful thing. It is Nora Ephron's I Feel Bad About My Neck and Other Thoughts on Being a Woman. This was published in 2006. This may have been her last book. And I have never read a full book of Nora Ephron's essays. I've read things here and there that were in magazines, and of course I've seen lots of movies that she wrote the screenplays for. And but these are hilarious, and I've read about 3 or 4 of them. I'm doing one a day to spread it out, and this is the perfect timing. And you know, every time I get something to read that truly is funny, I always think, why do I not read more funny books? And this, just even the titles of the essays. I mean, the first one, I Feel Bad About My Neck. The second one's called I Hate My Purse. They are all just, I'll talk about it more on Friday Reads, but I am absolutely loving this essay collection. I gotta apologize for the continuing hoarseness. This is the throatiest, coughiest cold. I don't have a cold anymore. I just have this lingering remnant that lives in my throat, and it's making me insane, but so be it. All right, on with the gift. The next one, I am completely terrified to reread this play, and it is Equus by Peter Shaffer. I did read this when I was a teenager, and in the very first iteration of my love of reading plays. I've never seen the play, but I read it and it freaked me out. It's disturbing. Alan Strang is a disturbed youth whose dangerous obsession with horses leads him to commit an unspeakable act of violence. As psychiatrist Martin Dysart struggles to understand the motivation for Alan's brutality, he's increasingly drawn into Alan's web and eventually forced to question his own sanity. And I do remember when it was restaged in 2008. This is referenced back here with Daniel Radcliffe. I'm not sure if that new cover is designed from that production or not, but it was a chilling and disturbing play, and I will read it again, but it's wonderful to have this beautiful copy. The next one is a playwright that Michael knew I wanted to read this year, and I have included him in my Project Endless Drama, but that one's going to be a different play. And this is August Wilson's Fences. August Wilson's plays from the 20th century somehow completely, I think he really became prominent around the time I was finishing college, like late 80s. I could be a little off on this, but somehow I just missed out, and I never read any of his plays. And I know that currently some of them have been gradually being made into movies, and I think Denzel Washington is behind that project. So the piano lesson is coming up in the Endless Drama project, but now I have a copy of Fences, which is also one of his most famous plays. I think, let's see, winner of the Pulitzer Prize for Drama. In this powerful, stunning, dramatic work, Troy Maxson has gone through life in a country where to be proud and black was to face pressures that could crush a man, body, and soul. But the 1950s are yielding to the new spirit of liberation in the 1960s. It's a spirit that is making him a stranger, angry and afraid, in a world he never knew, and to a wife and son he understands less and less. When it opened on Broadway in 1987, it starred James Earl Jones. I love how plays often include some historical information about the original productions, the original cast. Its first public appearance as a staged reading, and then the original, even like the set designer and everything is included. So I love getting that background information on a play. And I'm really looking forward to embarking on my reading of August Wilson's works. So that is a great addition to my library. And then last but not least, this play is in the project later this year. I think it's in September or October. And I really hope that the stars align and that in the Bard Room project, we're reading Hamlet somewhere around that time, because it is Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. Now, the timing is so perfect because this is a play that I really think I read this. My memory might not be serving me well. Here's what I thought. I thought that I have read it and that I had a copy. I do not have a copy. I don't remember anything about the plot. Did I actually read it? I think I did back in college. So it could be a reread. Who knows? Maybe I didn't. So I'm kind of visualizing for later in this year, I want to reread Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. And the other reason I want to reread that is because the movie's coming and because I love that book. So I want to read Hamlet, and Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead. I did reread, okay, I'm going around in circles. When I read Hamnet a couple years ago, it prompted me to reread Hamlet. Now I'm going the other way around. But anyway, I'm getting off the point. The point is I received a great copy of this book and I'm really excited to read it. It's an absurdist play written in the 60s. So thank you so much, Michael. I love these plays and the Nora Ephron book. And I'm so excited about my year of dramatic reading. To explain the next one, we have to go back a few months to when I read The Warden by Anthony Trollope. This was back in October, I think. I read it for Victober, and I read it with Sonia from Enthusiastic Reader. And we both loved it and vowed that we wanted to read the next book in the series pretty soon. And I think, and in the meantime, she actually has read the next book and said it was wonderful and one of her best books of the year. Well, I wanted specifically to get the next book that matched this edition. I got this, I can't remember which used bookstore, but I really love this edition, and it is a UK Penguin imprint. It's a UK Penguin Classics that came out, set that came out, I don't know, like in the 2015-ish. And so once I got this, I thought, oh, this won't be too bad. I'll just check around where I get used books and I'll find eventually the rest of the set. Well, it turned out to not be that easy. I could not find the second book, Barchester Towers. I kept looking and searching, and finally I did find it. And it wasn't cheap, but I splurged and got it, and it's in really excellent condition. So this is the second book in a 6-book series by Anthony Trollope. And so because I splurged and it happened to be in December, I immediately passed it over to Stephen. I said, just wrap this and give it to me for Christmas. I bought myself a Christmas present. So it was fun to get it all over again because I just gave it to him. I didn't know which present under the tree it was. So when I opened it, I was surprised all over again. So I am going to read it. I'm really kind of dying to read it, but I'm up to here with reading events and other commitments right now, but hopefully between now and into February, I am going to start reading this book because I really loved the first one. So for Christmas, what I asked for was an iPad and a trip to the Barnes & Noble after Christmas hardcover sale. My wishes were granted, and I got some other lovely gifts as well. And so the next little batch is what I got at the after Christmas sale. The sale wasn't as saley as it has been in the past. They kind of watered it down a little bit, but I still found some discounts, and the purchases, I racked up some bonus points. So I actually have, I have some points enough probably to get another book kind of sitting in my, I don't know, the little account that they give you. So my criteria for these selections were, I I had a list of things. I kind of highlighted books I was most interested in owning and reading. And then I had a big stack. I probably had 10 or 12, and I narrowed it down to 5. And I checked to see if the library had some of them. Then finally it just got down to the mood of the moment. So here is what I selected. Number 1, The Heart in Winter by Kevin Barry. I have never read any books by Kevin Barry, and I'm going to confess that for a long time, I kept getting Kevin Barry and Sebastian Barry confused. I think they're both Irish. I have read some books by Sebastian Barry, so at some point it untangled from my mind that one was an author that I have read and one is an author that I have not read. And I heard some reviews of this book that drew me to it, and my library doesn't have it. So this is going to be my debut Kevin Barry purchase or Kevin Barry read and purchase. A little bit from the blurb. October 1891. A hard winter approaches across the Rocky Mountains. The city of Butte, Montana is rich in copper mines and rampant with vice and debauchery among a hard-living crowd of immigrant Irish workers. Okay, it kind of sounds like a Sebastian Barry book, but it isn't. Here we find Tom Rourke, a young poet and ballad maker of the town, but also a doper, a drinker, and a fearsome degenerate. Just as he feels his life is heading nowhere fast, Polly Gillespie arrives in town as the new bride of the extremely devout mine captain, Long Anthony Harrington. A thunderbolt love affair sparks between Tom and Polly, and they strike out west on a stolen horse, moving through the badlands of Montana and Idaho, and briefly an idyll of wild romance perfects itself. But, and I'm going to stop there because I feel like after the but, maybe there's too much of a spoiler coming. So we're going to stop there and find out what happens to these two runaways when I read the book. But it sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't it? Of course, it could get really dark too, so we'll see what happens. The next one is a collection of short stories, and it is Ghostroots by Pemi Aguda. Isn't this a beautiful cover? This book was first brought to my attention because it was a National Book Award finalist, I think. If I'm wrong about the prize, I'll put a correction, but I think that's what it was. So here is the description. In this beguiling collection of 12 imaginative stories set in Lagos, Nigeria, Pemi Aguda dramatizes the tension between our yearning to be individuals and the way we are haunted by what came before. The stories in Ghostroots map emotional and physical worlds that lay bare the forces of family, myth, tradition, gender, and modernity. Nigerian society. Powered by a deep empathy and glinting with humor, they announce a major new literary talent. Ooh, is it a debut? The author lives in Philadelphia, but she is from Nigeria. I don't know if these are strictly realistic or if there's an element of magical realism. I don't know. For some reason, the cover suggests magical realism. We shall find out. So when my short story mood hits, this is ready to go. We have to have a little bit of everything. The next one's science fiction, and this is Toward Eternity by Anton Hur. Anton Hur is really well known as a translator. He translates Korean fiction into English, and this is his debut novel, and I kept hearing about it here and there and thought it sounded really interesting. And I like the way it looks too. It has pretty insides. I don't judge a book by its cover, but I have really strong opinions about the covers. In the near future, a new therapy promises to eradicate cancer by entirely replacing the body's cells with nanites, android cells that not only cure those afflicted, but also render patients virtually immortal. When literary researcher Young-hoon, himself a recipient of nanotherapy, teaches an AI named Parrott how to understand poetry, he creates a living, thinking machine. But when Young-hoon mysteriously vanishes into thin air and then just as suddenly reappears, the event raises disturbing questions. What happened to Young-hoon? And though he's returned, is he really himself anymore? Okay, then it goes on. The blending of science fiction with the literary research and the android or the machine that is taught to be able to understand poetry. I don't know. I'm feeling this really cool weave of science, technology, literary themes, the human condition. It just sounds like my kind of nerdy goodness. I do love to have a few good speculative fiction books kind of waiting around for me. The next one is the buzziest one in the pile, the one that has appeared on most best of lists, yet I have not read it. And it is Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I've been wanting to read this ever since I first began to hear about it. And then then I didn't hear about it for a while. And then when it rolled around to the best of the year list, here it came again. And it's been on my list all year and I just never got to it. So I would say there's about 5 books that appeared over and over and over on everybody's lists, including James, of course, which was my favorite of the year, but Martyr was another one of them. It's one of those books that I don't really understand from people's description of it what's going on that makes it such a good book. I would say the book I read last year like that. I know this is a book that's not in any way resembling this one, but when I read My Friends by Hisham Matar last year, that was one where people kept saying, oh my gosh, it's so good. And then they'd start saying what it was about. And I'm thinking, well, it sounds kind of interesting, but why is it so good? And then when I read it, I found out. I know that this author, I think this is his first novel, but he's a poet. Okay, the author picture is kind of silly. I mean, it's very the brooding poet photo. All right, so what is this about anyway? Cyrus Shams, the novel's hero, is a young man grappling with an inheritance of violence and loss, a mother whose plane was shot down over the skies of the Persian Gulf in a senseless accident, and a father whose life in America was circumscribed by killing chickens on a factory farm in the Midwest. Cyrus is a drunk, an addict, and a poet whose obsession with martyrs leads him into the mysteries of his past, toward an uncle who rode through Iranian battlefields dressed as the angel of death to inspire and comfort the dying, and toward his mother, through a painting he discovered in a Brooklyn art gallery that suggests she might not have been who or what she seemed. So that gives me a little bit to go on. The wave of enthusiasm that other people have had for this book is carrying me forward. And I don't exactly have a precise plan of when I'm going to read it, but sometime soon. And then the last book from my Barnes & Noble haul is a poetry book. And I've had my eye on this book for months. A couple of different people highlighted it in videos earlier this year, and I've looked at it at the bookstore multiple times, and I just had a strategy that I was going to wait for the sale. And it is You Are Here, Poetry in the Natural World, edited and introduced by Ada Limon. I don't think that Ada Limon actually has a poem in the collection. I do like Ada Limon, and I have her earmarked in my brain to get a book of her poetry on its own. It's a beautiful little book, and it is nature poetry, which if someone said, Angelia, what are you really wanting to read right now? I probably wouldn't have said nature poetry, but the description of this book and the samples I've heard about in other people's reviews really kind of got me going. For many years, nature poetry has evoked images of romantic poets standing on mountaintops, but our poetic landscape has changed dramatically, and so has our planet. Edited and introduced by the 24th Poet Laureate of the United States, Ada Limon, this book challenges what we think we know about nature poetry, illuminating the myriad ways our landscape, both literal and literary, are changing. And I'm wondering what exactly that means and what a contemporary take on nature poetry could entail environmentally, emotionally, politically, who knows? I'm here to find out what's going on in this collection. There are just a few more, and they are not gift related. They are just some books that have come into the library. The first one is a book that I'm going to be buddy reading, I think next week with my friend Michael. It is Taiwan Travelogue by Yang Shuang-zi, and the translator is Lin King. This won the National Book Award this year for translated fiction. About a day before that happened. I had just written it in my TBR. I can't even remember where I saw it, somewhere in a review, and I thought, oh, that sounds really good, and I wrote it down, and then it popped up in this award that I was watching, and I was like, I'm gonna read that. It's kind of a book within a book. In May of 1938, a novelist, Ayama Shizuko, has sailed from her home in Nagasaki, Japan, and arrived in Taiwan. She's been invited there by the Japanese government ruling the island, though she has no interest in their official banquets or imperialist agenda. Instead, Shizuko longs to experience real island life and to taste as much of its authentic cuisine as her famously monstrous appetite can bear. So she's invited there for one job, but she's really there with her own personal agenda. And then she hires a young Taiwanese woman to be her interpreter and to travel with her. So they begin to travel. It says over scenic train rides and braised pork rice, lively banter, and winter melon tea, Shizuko grows infatuated with her companion, but something causes her to keep her distance. It's only after a heartbreaking separation that Shizuko begins to grasp what that something is. And this book is presented as the translation of the rediscovered Japanese text that Shizuko wrote. So somebody in the current day is translating this manuscript from 1938. So there's a book within a book. And it sounds so good, and I love the cover, and I can't wait to start reading this. I say that about everything. I can't wait to start reading everything that I ever hear about that sounds good. I'm just chronically excited and can't wait about everything. All right, the next two, it's legit that I bought because these are for my play project, Endless Drama, and I couldn't get them any other way. I have like this little deal going on with the plays. Some of them I own. Some of them are from my local library. Some of them I can borrow digitally from the Houston Public Library because anyone in Texas can access that library. And one or two of them I'm able to borrow from the university library where my daughter is a student. But when all else fails, and then some of them are on Project Gutenberg. When all else fails, I am buying a few of them. And so I bought these two that I'm going to need for March. And these are the two March plays. March is Women's History Month, and so I have two plays by contemporary women playwrights. And the first one is The Flick by Annie Baker. I think this did win a Pulitzer Prize. Well, so it says. I don't know what year. Oh, 2014. Okay, now I know. And all I know about, it doesn't describe a whole lot here, but there is a rundown movie theater in central Massachusetts. I can't talk today. Massachusetts. MA. 3 underpaid employees sweep up popcorn in the empty aisles and tend to one of the last 35mm projectors in the state. With keen insight and a ceaseless attention to detail, the flick pays tribute to the power of movies and prints a heartbreaking portrait of 3 characters and their working lives. I love that premise, that they're in this rundown theater. The theater is maybe on its way out. Things are changing. It sounds really good. It's described as funny, heartbreaking, sly, and unblinking. The flick may be the best argument anyone has made yet for the continued necessity and profound uniqueness of theater. And that reviewer was Jesse Green of New York Magazine. So we have that, and then we also have Indecent by Paula Vogel. And this is a play about a play. It's very short, too. Here's the description. When Sholem Asch wrote God of Vengeance in 1907, he didn't imagine the height of controversy the play would eventually reach. Performed at first in Yiddish and German, the play's subject matter wasn't deemed contentious until it was produced in English, when the American audiences were scandalized by the onstage depiction of an amorous affair between 2 women. Paula Vogel's newest work traces the trajectory of the show's success through its tour in Europe to its abrupt and explosive demise on Broadway in 1923, including the arrest of the entire production's cast and crew. So Paula Vogel's written a play about the previous play and its history, and it sounds really good. All right, and then finally, the last one is Gratuitous. There's a reason why I bought it right at this moment. I don't need this book right now, but first of all, I'm going to first blame Hannah of Hannah's Books, because she did a pair of videos highlighting new editions of classic books, beautiful new editions coming out. And she talked about the McNally editions, which seeks to reprint forgotten or lesser known classics in lovely paperback editions with French flaps and nice paper. And she highlighted this book. And so I had no plan to immediately buy it, even though I admired what I was seeing, and this particular book sounded really fun. But then I was ordering something else, and I needed to make free shipping. And I was getting a gift for my daughter because it was a book that she wanted at the Barnes & Noble sale, and they didn't have it. So I was ordering her the book, and I needed to make free shipping. And this just magically was just the right price to bring it up to the free shipping. So it was destiny, and it was Hannah's fault too. And so I got a copy of Ex-Wife by Ursula Parrott. And this is a book from the 1920s about a couple, Peter and Patricia, who says they have a very modern marriage. They both drink, they both smoke, they both work. Patricia as a head copywriter at a major department store. When it comes to sex with other people, they both believe in the honesty policy until they don't. Or at least until Peter doesn't, and a shell-shocked, lovesick Patricia finds herself starting out all over again, but this time as a different kind of single woman, the ex-wife. So this came out in 1929. It says it captures the speakeasies, nightclubs, and parties that defined jazz-age New York. It sounds like so much fun, and a time period and a place that I love to read about, and it has this great cover, and it has French flaps, and what else can I say? I had to get the free shipping. I can't just throw away money on something like that. So here it is. I don't know when I'm going to read it, but it has come home to roost at my house. I'm definitely going on into a low buy period for the foreseeable future because I am very, very stocked up. So I'm not going to say no buy because, you know, stuff happens, but definitely I have no immediate purchasing plans. So we'll call it a low buy, a not very much buy for the spring. Let's just say that, the spring semester. And so, but let me know, have you read any of these? What do you think? Any thoughts? I would love to hear your responses in the comments as always, and take care. I'll be back on Friday for Friday Reads. Have a great day.